The Kitari Dominion had ruled the Orion Arm for 10,000 years. Their crystalline ships, vast as cities, had watched civilizations rise and fall like waves upon a cosmic shore. When their long-range scouts first detected radio signals from the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star, the High Council barely took notice. After all, what threat could a primitive species pose to an empire that spanned 1,000 light years? Supreme Overseer Valthen stood before the Great Archive, his iridescent scales reflecting the soft blue light of the holographic displays. The gathered data about Earth scrolled before his four eyes. Atmospheric composition, population centers, technological development. A mere 2 centuries of industrial civilization. No unified planetary government. Barely functional space stations orbiting their world. Hardly worth our attention, he mused, his secondary voice box producing the harmonic tones of aristocratic disdain. Mark their system for standard resource extraction. No special protocols required. That decision, made with such casual disregard, would prove to be the Dominion's greatest mistake. The first Kitari harvester ships arrived in the Sol system on what humans would later call Black Wednesday. They bypassed the early warning systems, their quantum-shifted drives making them invisible to conventional radar. Their target, the Helium-3 mining operations on Luna, humanity's first extraterrestrial industrial venture. The attacks were precise, clinical. Kitari warriors, encased in biomechanical battlesuits, swept through the lunar facilities like a steel tide. They expected no resistance from such a primitive species. They expected fear, panic, submission. They were wrong. Dr. Sarah Chen, director of the Lunar Defense Initiative, watched the invasion unfold through security feeds. Her hands flew across the quantum interface, initiating protocols that the Kitari would later learn to fear. Authorization code, Chen, Alpha 79. Activate Guardian. Deep beneath the lunar surface, something awakened. The Kitari would later claim it was impossible, that no species at Earth's development level could have created such technology. But humanity had always excelled at doing the impossible when pushed into a corner. The first indication that something was wrong came when Squad Leader Kexri lost contact with his forward units. Then the strange energy signatures appeared on their sensors, unlike anything in the Dominion's vast database. When the lunar surface began to ripple like water, panic finally broke through their arrogant composure. Guardian was humanity's secret weapon, developed not for alien invaders, but for asteroid defense, a network of quantum-entangled particles infused into the lunar regolith, capable of responding to conscious direction. In that moment, the moon itself became humanity's shield and sword. The Kitari warriors found their advanced battle suits suddenly useless, the lunar dust having infiltrated and crystallized their quantum circuits. Those who survived the initial response fled back to their ships, only to find their vessels equally compromised. On Earth, the response was swift and unified. Ancient rivalries were set aside as humanity faced its first extraterrestrial threat. In hidden facilities across the globe, projects that had existed only in theory were given emergency funding and priority status. Admiral James Okonjo, newly appointed commander of Earth's Unified Defense Forces, stood before the United Nations Security Council. His voice carried the weight of one who had seen humanity's future change in an instant. "They thought we would be easy prey," he declared, his words broadcast to billions. "They judged us by their standards, by their understanding of technological progress. But humanity has never followed the expected path. We've compressed millennia of development into centuries because we had to, because our world, our history, our very nature demanded it." The Kitari's second wave arrived 3 months later, a fleet of warships that could have reduced Earth's surface to slag. But humanity was ready. The Quantum Defense Network, expanded beyond Luna to create a web throughout the solar system, waited silently. Earth's first true warships, built in secret over the previous decade, emerged from hidden bases in the asteroid belt. Supreme Overseer Val Than received the battle reports with increasing disbelief. The primitives were fighting back, using technologies that shouldn't have been possible. Worse, they were learning, adapting with each engagement. The Kitari's standard tactics, unchanged for millennia, were being countered with brutal efficiency. In his private chambers, Val Than reviewed the initial survey data, searching for what they had missed. The answer was there, in a detail his analysts had dismissed. Humans had fought wars throughout their history, countless conflicts that had driven innovation at a pace the Kitari could barely comprehend. They had evolved not through careful, measured progress, but through desperate leaps forward in times of crisis. The Dominion had not found an easy conquest. They had awakened a species that had been forged in the crucible of continuous challenge and change. A species that had learned to turn its greatest weaknesses, its divisions, its conflicts, its ceaseless drive for advantage, into incredible strengths. As the first major space battle erupted near Mars' orbit, Val Than realized a terrible truth. The Dominion had not merely made a tactical error, they had committed an evolutionary one. They had spent 10,000 years perfecting a single way of war, while humanity had spent its entire history learning to adapt. The lesson would prove costly for both sides, but especially for those who had started this conflict with such careless arrogance. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had not just survived, but thrived on their harsh, challenging world. The war for Sol had begun, and with it, the legend of humanity's rise among the stars was about to be written in fire and quantum light. Deep within the Himalayan mountains, in a facility carved from the living rock, Dr. Maya Patel watched as her life's work transformed from theory into humanity's best hope for survival. The Quantum Forge, as her team had dubbed it, pulsed with an otherworldly blue light as it reconstructed matter at the subatomic level. Neural interface synchronization at 98%, announced her AI assistant, ARI. Quantum coherence stable. We're ready for the first full-scale test. Maya nodded, her dark eyes reflecting the Forge's glow. The device before her represented humanity's greatest technological leap since the discovery of fire. The ability to manipulate matter through thought alone, using quantum entanglement principles that the Kitari had dismissed as impossible for primitive species to master. Above ground, the war for Earth's solar system raged. The Kitari's initial surprise had given way to frustrated determination as their supposedly superior forces found themselves repeatedly outmaneuvered by human defenders. But everyone knew it was only a matter of time before the Dominion committed its full military might to crushing this unexpected resistance. Admiral Okonjo's hologram materialized in the forge chamber, his expression grave. Dr. Patel, the Kitari have begun moving their main battle fleet through the Kuiper Belt. We have less than 2 weeks before they arrive. Please tell me you have good news. Maya gestured to the Quantum Forge. See for yourself, Admiral. With practiced ease, she interfaced with the system through her neural implant. The forge responded instantly, raw matter flowing like liquid metal, taking shape according to her thoughts. Within moments, a sleek, almost organic-looking piece of armor floated before them. Quantum-responsive battle armor, Maya explained. It learns from the user, adapts to threats in real time, and can reconfigure itself at the molecular level. But that's not the best part. She smiled. It's completely immune to the Kitari's quantum disruption weapons. The Admiral's hologram walked around the floating armor, studying it with trained eyes. How soon can we begin production? That's where it gets interesting, Maya replied. We don't need traditional production lines. Each suit can replicate itself using raw materials and quantum entanglement. The more we deploy, the faster we can produce them. Exponential growth. In orbit above Mars, Captain Sarah Chen, newly promoted after her successful defense of Luna, received the first shipment of quantum armor. Her crew, veterans of 3 months of brutal space combat, watched with a mix of hope and skepticism as she demonstrated the new technology. The armor bonds directly with your nervous system, she explained, the suit flowing over her body like liquid mercury before solidifying. It thinks with you, moves with you, and most importantly, learns with you. A junior officer raised her hand. "Ma'am, what happens if the Kitari try to hack it?" Chen smiled beneath her helmet. "Let them try. This technology isn't based on their principles of quantum computing. We took a completely different path, one they never imagined possible. While they spent millennia refining a single approach, we created something entirely new." The true test came sooner than expected. A Kitari scout fleet, pushing ahead of the main armada, encountered Chen's task force near Deimos. The enemy commander, confident in their superior numbers, deployed their standard battle formation, a mistake that would prove fatal. Chen's voice rang through the quantum-linked command network. "Remember your training. Let the armor think with you. Move as one." What followed would be studied in military academies for centuries to come. The human ships, their crews protected by quantum armor, moved with impossible precision. Traditional tactics became meaningless as the armor predicted and countered enemy attacks before they were even launched. The scout fleet's quantum disruption weapons, the Dominion's pride, passed harmlessly through human defenses. In his flagship approaching the outer solar system, Supreme Overseer Val Then received the battle footage with growing horror. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were revolutionizing warfare itself. His scientists insisted what they were seeing was impossible, that no species could advance so quickly. "You still don't understand," his chief advisor, Zexra, finally dared to say. "We judged their progress against our own history, our own methodical path to the stars. But these humans, they don't follow paths. They forge new ones through sheer force of will and necessity." The Quantum Forge continued its work, day and night, as Earth prepared for the coming battle. Each deployment of the armor provided new data, new adaptations, new capabilities that were shared instantly across the entire network. Humanity's defenders were becoming something unprecedented. A single, learning, evolving organism spread across space. Maya worked tirelessly, improving and expanding the technology. "We're not just building weapons," she told her team. "We're creating a new way of existing in space." The Kitari thought they were our superiors, but their arrogance blinded them to their own stagnation. As the main Kitari fleet approached, humanity held its breath. The coming battle would determine not just Earth's fate, but the future of two fundamentally different approaches to civilization. The steady, predictable progress of the Dominion versus humanity's chaos-driven evolution. Admiral Okonjo, standing on the bridge of Earth's new flagship, the Prometheus, watched the quantum armor synchronize across his fleet. In 2 weeks, they had deployed more technological innovation than the Kitari had managed in a century. Now they would see if it was enough. "All ships, battle positions," he commanded. "Let's show the Dominion why you should never underestimate humanity's capacity to evolve." The Silent Forge had done its work. Now it was time for the galaxy to witness its creation. The vast emptiness between Mars and Jupiter became a graveyard of broken ships and shattered dreams. The Kitari main fleet, 5,000 vessels strong, had expected to crush Earth's defenders through sheer force of numbers. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to exist everywhere and nowhere at once. Commander Rixtel, leader of the Dominion's 3rd Battle Group, watched in frustration as another squadron of his ships fell into a human trap. The quantum-armored Earth vessels would appear from seemingly nowhere, strike with devastating precision, and vanish again into the void, leaving only destruction in their wake. "Impossible," he muttered, his scales flickering with anxiety. "They're using tactics we've never seen before. It's as if they're treating space itself as their ally." He wasn't wrong. In the command center of the Prometheus, Admiral Okonjo had implemented what he called orbital guerrilla warfare. The quantum armor allowed human ships to exploit gravitational wells and solar radiation in ways the Kitari had never imagined possible. Each ship became a ghost, appearing and disappearing at will, striking where the enemy was weakest. "Status report," Okonjo demanded, his holographic tactical display showing the complex dance of battle across the asteroid belt. Captain Chen's voice came through the quantum link, clear despite the distance. "The Kitari are falling for it, sir. Their rigid formation is breaking apart as they try to chase our phantom attacks. They're exposing their command and control ships." Dr. Maya Patel, now stationed aboard the Prometheus to oversee the quantum armor's performance, noticed something strange in the data streams. "Admiral, look at this pattern in their quantum communications. There's a vulnerability we didn't see before." The Kitari's quantum network, the pride of their civilization, was based on principles of absolute order and predictability. But Maya's analysis revealed that this very predictability was their weakness. The chaos-embracing human quantum systems could introduce random variables that the Kitari network couldn't process. "It's like introducing a virus into a computer that can only think in straight lines," Maya explained, her fingers dancing through holographic data. "Their system can't adapt fast enough to our random quantum fluctuations." Okanjo understood immediately. They'd spent so long perfecting their system, they'd never considered it might be used against them. "Captain Chen, implement Operation Chaos." Across the battlefield, human ships began broadcasting specifically crafted quantum signals, not to damage or destroy, but to confuse and disorient. The effect on the Kitari fleet was devastating. Their perfectly coordinated formations fell into disarray as ships lost contact with each other, their crews unable to trust their own sensors. Supreme Overseer Val Then, watching from his flagship at the edge of the system, felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries. Fear. How? He demanded of his scientists. How are they doing this? His chief quantum theorist, Zexra, had finally begun to understand. "They're not following any rules, Overseer. While we spent millennia perfecting a single approach to quantum mechanics, they've somehow embraced its inherent chaos. Their technology doesn't try to control quantum uncertainty, it uses it." The revelation came too late. Throughout the Kitari fleet, systems began to fail in cascading waves. Ships that had been the pride of the Dominion for centuries found themselves blind and deaf in space, their quantum networks overwhelmed by the controlled chaos of human attacks. But victory came with a price. The human quantum armor, while incredibly effective, put enormous strain on its users. The neural interface that made it so powerful also meant that every hit, every death among their forces, was felt across the entire network. Humanity's greatest strength, their ability to connect and adapt, became a double-edged sword. Maya noticed the toll it was taking on the crews. "We need to find a balance," she told Okanjo. "The armor's making us stronger, but it's also making us more vulnerable to collective trauma." The Admiral nodded grimly. "That's what makes us different from them, Doctor. We understand that progress comes with pain. We learn from it, grow from it. The Kitari tried to eliminate uncertainty from their civilization. We've learned to dance with it." As the battle reached its crescendo, a new pattern emerged. The human fleet, moving with the coordinated grace of a murmuration of starlings, began herding the scattered Kitari ships into smaller and smaller pockets of space. It wasn't just a military victory they were after, it was a demonstration. "Look at what you dismissed as primitive." Chen's voice broadcasted across all frequencies, in perfect Kitari language. "Look at what we became because you forced us to evolve." The Kitari watched in stunned silence as their mighty armada was systematically dismantled by forces they had considered beneath their notice just months ago. Ships that had proudly served the Dominion for centuries were now being disabled by technology that, by their understanding, shouldn't even exist. In his flagship, Val Then made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "All forces fall back to the Kuiper Belt. We need to reassess." It was the first time in 10,000 years that a Kitari fleet had retreated from battle. But as they withdrew, they left behind more than just their pride. They left behind their certainty in their own superiority, their belief in the immutability of their ways. Humanity had not just won a battle. They had shattered a paradigm that had dominated this sector of the galaxy for millennia. And as the quantum-armored ships regrouped around Mars, their crews both exhausted and exhilarated, everyone knew that this was just the beginning. The galaxy was changing, and humanity, for better or worse, was the catalyst. News of the Qutari retreat spread through the galaxy like a quantum wave, impossible to contain or control. Species that had lived under the Dominion's shadow for millennia suddenly raised their heads, seeing humanity's victory as a sign that the old order was not as immutable as they had believed. In the crystalline chambers of the Galactic Assembly, representatives from 100 civilizations gathered to discuss this unprecedented situation. The Qutari seats, prominent for so long, stood conspicuously empty. Ambassador Chen, Sarah Chen, the former captain now serving as humanity's first galactic representative, stood before the assembly, her quantum armor adapted into a more diplomatic form, but no less impressive. The gathered aliens watched with a mixture of fear and fascination as the armor shifted subtly with her movements, responding to her unconscious thoughts. "We did not seek this conflict," she declared, her voice carrying across the vast chamber. "The Dominion's aggression forced our hand, but our victory need not lead to their destruction. We propose a new way forward, one based on cooperation rather than domination." In the shadows of the assembly chamber, representatives of younger races whispered among themselves. Humanity had achieved in months what they had dreamed of for centuries, breaking the Qutari's grip on power. But would the humans prove to be any different? Meanwhile, deep in Dominion space, civil war erupted. The defeat at Sol had shattered the Qutari's unshakable belief in their own superiority, and with it, the foundations of their society. Young reformers, led by Zexra, the former quantum theorist who had first understood humanity's true potential, challenged the ancient hierarchies. "Our civilization has calcified," Zexra declared to a gathering of rebel leaders. "We stopped evolving, stopped adapting, convinced that we had reached perfection. The humans showed us the price of such pride." Supreme Overseer Valthan, watching his empire crumble from his palace on the Qutari homeworld, made one final desperate decision. He ordered the activation of the Dominion's ultimate weapon, the quantum nullifier, a device capable of destroying all quantum-based technology within a sector of space. Dr. Maya Patel, now leading Earth's Advanced Defense Research Division, detected the weapon's power signature as it began to charge. "They're going to try to destroy everything we've built," she reported to the Emergency Council. "But they don't understand. Our quantum technology doesn't work like theirs. We don't fight the chaos. We embrace it." Admiral Okonjo, his hair now streaked with gray from the stress of constant neural interface with the quantum systems, studied the tactical displays. "They're making the same mistake again," he observed. "They think they can impose order on quantum chaos. Doctor, can we use this against them?" Maya's eyes lit up with understanding. "The nullifier? Yes, if we can introduce enough quantum uncertainty into its field, we could cause a cascading failure, but the power requirements would be enormous." "What about the quantum forge?" suggested Chen, joining the conversation through her quantum link from the Galactic Assembly. "Not as a weapon, but as a catalyst." The plan they devised was audacious, combining humanity's newfound technological prowess with their innate ability to think outside conventional boundaries. As the nullifier powered up, humanity would not try to stop it. They would help it achieve its true potential. Earth's quantum-armored fleet took up positions around the solar system, not in defense, but in a complex geometric pattern. The quantum forge, now expanded into a network of facilities throughout Earth's sphere of influence, began generating controlled chaos on an unprecedented scale. "This is either going to save us all or tear spacetime apart," Maya muttered as she initiated the sequence. The nullifier's energy wave swept out from Qutari space, a tide of artificial order meant to impose the Dominion's will on reality itself. But when it met the quantum chaos carefully orchestrated by humanity's fleet, something extraordinary happened. Instead of destroying quantum technology, the wave transformed it. The human quantum network, designed to adapt and evolve, absorbed the nullifier's energy and redistributed it, creating something entirely new. A quantum field that enhanced rather than destroyed, that connected rather than disrupted. Across Qitari space, their rigid quantum networks began to transform, becoming more fluid, more adaptive. Young Qitari, their minds more open to change than their elders, found themselves able to interface with their technology in ways they had never imagined possible. Valthan, watching his ultimate weapon become an instrument of even greater change, finally understood the true price of pride. His civilization had sought to impose its will on the universe, while humanity had learned to work with it, to adapt to it, to grow with it. The emergency session of the Galactic Assembly stretched into its third day as the implications became clear. Humanity had not just defeated the Dominion, they had fundamentally changed the nature of quantum technology throughout this sector of space. The rigid hierarchies of the past were giving way to something new, something more dynamic. Ambassador Chen stood once again before the assembly, but this time her message was different. What happened here wasn't just about victory or defeat, she explained. It was about evolution. Not just technological, but cultural. The Qitari sought to prevent change. We showed them. Showed all of you. That change is not just inevitable, it's essential. As the assembly debated the path forward, ships from a dozen worlds began arriving in Seoul, not for war, but for dialogue. They came seeking not just humanity's technology, but their perspective, their unique way of looking at the universe and their place in it. The price of pride had been high, but from its payment came the possibility of something greater. A galaxy ready to embrace change, to evolve, to grow. And humanity, the upstart species that had dared to challenge the order of millennia, found themselves at the center of this transformation. 1 year after the quantum nullifier incident, the crystalline spires of New Alexandria rose from the lunar surface, humanity's first galactic diplomatic center. Its quantum-forged architecture shifted subtly in the starlight, a living monument to the marriage of human ingenuity and alien technology. Within its chambers, representatives from across the galaxy gathered for what would become known as the Convergence Summit. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the heart of the Grand Chamber, her quantum armor now evolved into something that was neither purely human nor purely alien technology. Around her sat delegates from 100 worlds, including, most significantly, both the traditional Qitari leadership and the reformist faction. 1 year ago, Chen began, her voice carrying easily through the quantum-enhanced acoustics. We stood on the brink of mutual destruction. Today, we stand at the threshold of something unprecedented. True galactic cooperation. In orbit above, the Prometheus, now transformed into a research vessel, continued its work. Dr. Maya Patil and her team had discovered that the interaction between the quantum nullifier and humanity's chaos-embracing technology had created something entirely new, a form of quantum communication that allowed for the sharing not just of information, but of experience itself. The quantum network isn't just connecting our ships anymore, Maya explained to Admiral Okonjo as they watched a group of young Qitari scientists working alongside human researchers. It's connecting cultures, perspectives, ways of thinking that had never touched before. The old admiral, his neural interfaces now showing signs of integration with the evolved quantum field, nodded thoughtfully. We didn't just change their technology, he observed. We changed how they see the universe itself. Below them, Earth gleamed like a jewel, its cities now dotted with structures that merged human and alien architecture. The quantum-forged technology had spread, but not as a weapon. Instead, it had become a tool of creation, allowing civilizations to build in ways that would have been impossible just a year before. Zexra, once a rebel against Qitari tradition, and now their lead representative in the new galactic order, approached Chen after her opening speech. The former quantum theorist had evolved along with the technology, their crystalline scales now rippling with quantum patterns that mirrored human neural interfaces. "We thought we were coming to teach you," they admitted, their voice carrying harmonics of both humility and wonder. "Instead, you taught us the most important lesson of all, that true strength lies not in resisting change, but in embracing it." Supreme Overseer Valthan, now serving in an advisory role to the new Kitari coalition, watched the proceedings with ancient eyes that had finally learned to see differently. "Our greatest mistake," he reflected to a gathering of young leaders, "was not in underestimating human technology. It was in underestimating their capacity for transformation, and through them, our own." The Convergence Summit's main purpose was not to establish dominance or divide resources, as such gatherings had done for millennia under Kitari rule. Instead, it focused on how to manage the rapid changes sweeping through galactic civilization. The quantum revolution had unlocked possibilities that no single species could fully explore alone. Maya presented the summit's keynote scientific address, demonstrating how the merged quantum technologies were already evolving beyond their creators' understanding. "We're not just building tools anymore," she explained, her quantum interface creating stunning visualizations in the air around her. "We're creating frameworks for evolution itself." But with these advances came new challenges. The ability to share experiences across species had revealed the depth of trauma the Kitari dominance had inflicted on countless civilizations. Ambassador Chen found herself not just negotiating treaties, but helping to heal wounds that were millennia old. "We can't erase the past," she told a private gathering of representatives from formerly subjugated worlds. "But we can learn from it. Humanity's history is full of conflicts, of oppression, and resistance. We learn that true progress only comes when we face these truths and work to heal them." The final day of the summit saw the signing of the Quantum Concordat, a new framework for galactic cooperation. Its first article, proposed jointly by human and Kitari delegates, enshrined the principle that had emerged from their conflict. Progress comes not from the imposition of order, but from the embrace of change. As the delegates departed, returning to their worlds with new possibilities and perspectives, Admiral Okonjo and Dr. Paddle stood in the quantum-forged observation dome of New Alexandria. Below them, the lunar surface shimmered with the same quantum technology that had once saved humanity from extinction. "Did you ever imagine it would end like this?" Okonjo asked, watching ships from across the galaxy weaving patterns in the space above Earth, not just surviving, but transforming the very civilization that tried to conquer us. Maya smiled, her quantum interface showing her the countless connections forming and reforming between the departing vessels, a living network of communication and cooperation that would have been impossible just a year ago. "That's the thing about humanity," she replied. "We never just survive. We adapt, we evolve, and we help others do the same." The Kitari thought they were coming to conquer a primitive species, but instead they found the key to their own evolution. As night fell on the lunar surface, the quantum-forged spires of New Alexandria pulsed with soft light, their patterns matching the rhythm of thought and communication flowing through the new galactic network. Humanity had not just earned its place among the stars, it had helped forge a new way of existing among them. The pride that had nearly destroyed two civilizations had given way to something stronger, the humility to learn from each other, and the courage to face change not as a threat, but as an opportunity. In the end, the very chaos that the Kitari had feared became the foundation of a new order, one built not on dominance, but on the endless potential for growth and transformation.